Okay, this is the review session for your upcoming practical number 3 over the endocrine system, the special senses, the nervous system, and the cardiovascular system. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you a picture of the endocrine system, and then we'll move on to the model that shows all the endocrine system glands. So let me share my screen here. Okay, so on this screen, it is showing the endocrine system. So up here in the brain, you're going to have 3 different areas that are responsible for producing hormones. You have the hypothalamus, the pineal gland, and the pituitary gland. And we'll see these in a minute when we look at the brain. Then down in the throat area, this is going to be the thyroid gland. Then this is the thymus gland. The thymus sits just above or just superior to the heart. So your heart would be right here. Okay, so the thymus gland is going to sit just above the heart. Then these little brown kidney bean shaped organs here are going to be the kidneys, and the little hats on top of the kidneys are going to be the adrenal glands. Then this little wing shaped structure here is the pancreas. Then in the female, so this structure right here is going to be in the female. These 2 little balls, so this little pink ball right here and this little pink ball right here are going to be the ovaries of the female. And then in the male, hanging down outside of the male body, the little balls down here are going to be the testes. Okay, so make sure you know these endocrine glands on a picture very similar to this, and then make sure you also know them on the models. So now we're going to leave this image and we're going to go to the models. Okay, hang on just a second. Okay, hang on. I'm trying to get it off of the share screen. Hang on just a sec. I'm going to pause it while I change screens. Okay, so now we are going to the endocrine glands on the model. Okay, so this is my big torso guy. I'm going to kind of zoom it out right here so that you can see. This is his head up here. So up in his brain is going to be where you have the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, and the hypothalamus. And again, we'll go over those in just a minute when we look at our brain. But we're going to go into all the endocrine glands in this area. So here in the throat, this gland right here is going to be the thyroid gland. Then the heart would sit right here, and the gland that would be located right here on top of the heart would be the thymus. Then you have along here and along here. Then going down, this wing-shaped structure, so this right here is going to be the pancreas, and I'm going to show you zoomed in. So again, this gland right here that looks like a little wing is going to be the pancreas. Then when you're looking inside of his abdominal area, these kidney bean shaped organs here and here are going to be the kidneys. And then the 2 beige hats sitting on top of the kidneys are the adrenal glands. Then looking down from there, this is a female. So angle it where you can see it. This little yellow ball down here and this little yellow ball right here in the female is going to be the ovaries. Then if this was a male, put it back together. Hang on just a second. He fell apart. Okay, then if this was a male, it would have all of this hanging down out of the body, and the little balls hanging down here out of the body of a male would be the testes. Okay. Okay, then we also have this model right here showing the endocrine system. So up in the brain, again, up here, you would have your pineal gland, your pituitary gland, and your hypothalamus that we'll see in the brain. Then this area right here is going to be in the throat. So that is going to be the thyroid gland. Here we have the heart. So right here, we would have a gland called the thymus. Then going down from there, we have these two kidney bean shaped structures, these brown ones here and here, called the kidneys. And then the little hat sitting on the kidneys is your adrenal glands. This wing shaped structure right here is going to be the pancreas. Then in the female, you're going to have this structure right here. The two balls on this structure are going to be the ovaries. And then hanging down out of the male, you have the two balls, which are called the testes. Okay, so again, thyroid, the thymus would be here. The only place I can ask you a thymus is a picture. The heart, kidneys, adrenal glands, pancreas, ovaries, testes. Okay. So that's the endocrine system. Now I'm going to show you those three glands that I talked about, or those three areas in the brain that I talked about. Okay, so here's my brain. So hanging down from my brain is this little ball. That little ball is the pituitary gland. Then if I crack my brain open so I can see inside of it, looking at the inside, again, this little ball hanging down right here is the pituitary gland. This little tiny comma right here off the back, that is the pineal gland. And then this area right here is indented. So it'll be right there. That is the hypothalamus. So again, pituitary gland, that little comma, that little white comma right there is the pineal gland. And then this area right here, where 21, granted, this is going to be backwards for y'all, so it looks like 12 for you guys. But this little area right here is the hypothalamus. And that concludes all of the endocrine system. Remember, your endocrine system is a system responsible for producing the hormones in the body. Okay, now moving on from that, we're going to go into the nervous system. So the nervous system, the parts y'all have to know are going to be the nerve cell, which is called a neuron, the brain, and the two spinal cord models. So here we go. So this is the neuron model. So when we're looking at the neuron, this area right here that my hand is covering, this area is called the cell body or the soma. In the cell body, you're going to have all the organelles. So here's the nucleus, here's the Golgi apparatus, here's the rough ER, here's the smooth ER, here are the mitochondria, here's a lysosome. So inside this soma or cell body area right here is going to be where all of your organelles are located. Then you have little processes that come off of that cell body or soma. So these hard processes like this one right here, this one right here, this one right here, these are going to be dendrites. Then you have this long blue tail that comes off of your neuron. This is going to be the axon, and the axon is going to go inside of these yellow coverings. So again, this blue tail is the axon. The axon is going to go all the way through here. It's going to go through there. It comes out. So you can see the blue tail called the axon here, and it's going to end here. So it's going to end in little bulbous ends. This is going to be the axon terminal. The other place where you see the axon terminal are going to be these rubbery ends. So these little ends like this, those are the axon terminals as well. These yellow coverings are the myelin sheath. They're going to insulate the axon. And then the spaces between the myelin sheaths is going to be the node of Ranvier. So again, you have the soma or cell body. You have the hard appendages here and here are the hard processes. Those are your dendrites. You have this long tail, blue tail, which is your axon. At the end of your axon, you have your axon terminal. So they're going to be seen here. And then this is an axon terminal of a different neuron coming in. This is an axon terminal of a different neuron coming in. Surrounding my axon, I have my covering, my yellow coverings here called my myelin sheaths. And then the space between my myelin sheaths is my node of Ranvier. Then I have my brain. So here's my brain model. So this entire upper portion of my brain that I'm rubbing on is my cerebrum. Okay, so again, all of this upper area, not this dark brown, but all of this upper area of the brain is the cerebrum. The cerebrum can be divided into two halves. Let me make this go down a little bit. I have my right cerebral hemisphere and my left cerebral hemisphere. So again, my cerebrum can be divided into two halves, my right cerebral hemisphere and my left cerebral hemisphere. When I crack them open, you will see that this area up here is my cerebral hemisphere, and this area up here is my cerebral hemisphere. Okay. Put this guy back together. So again, cerebrum. This dark brown area down here, so I'm turning it upside down now, I'm turning it from the side. This dark brown is going to be my cerebellum. This big area here, this big swelling area, this is going to be my pons. Then if I put one finger underneath my pons, one finger width is going to be my medulla oblongata right here. And then the very end of this right here is going to be the spinal cord. So all of this big swollen area is the pons. Where my finger covers is the medulla oblongata. And then now down here where my finger's covering is the spinal cord. Then you have these two white sticks here and here. These are going to be your olfactory tracts, and they end in the bulbous ends called your olfactory bulbs. So olfactory tracts and olfactory bulbs. These are going to be the way that the nose sends the signals about what you're smelling to the brain, because sense of olfaction is the sense of smell. Okay, so again, olfactory tracts and olfactory bulbs. These two white horns right here are going to be your optic nerves. So they're going to be coming from your eyes. And then this white bridge right here between the two optic nerves, that white bridge right there is your your optic chiasm. So here and here, these two white horns are your optic nerves, and the white bridge here between the two is your optic chiasm. Okay. And then again, the little ball that hangs down is your pituitary gland. Okay. Then when we crack him open, so now he's cracked open, this area right here is going to be your cerebral hemisphere. This is going to be the cerebellum. You have the big swelling right here, which is the pons. Right here where my finger's rubbing sideways on, that is the medulla oblongata. Then this end right here, so just where my finger's rubbing, is going to be the spinal cord. Then you have this white arch. That white arch is the corpus callosum. This little comma right here is the pineal gland. This area that is raised right here that has this brown pimple in the middle, that is going to be the thalamus. This number 21 right here, again, you're seeing it inverted, so it might look like a 12 to you, but this area right here that my fingernail is touching, that is the hypothalamus. Then this is going to be my optic nerve. This is my optic chiasm. Right here is my mammillary body. And then this is my pituitary gland. Okay. So again, cerebral hemisphere, cerebellum, pons, medulla oblongata, spinal cord, pituitary gland, this entire white arch, corpus callosum, this little white comma, pineal gland, this entire raised area right here with the brown pimple in the middle is the thalamus. This area below the thalamus, seen as 21 right here, is the hypothalamus. This white structure right here that my fingernail is touching, optic nerve. This portion, optic chiasm. This one right here, that little circle right there, that white circle. Mammillary body. And this little ball that hangs down from the brain is the pituitary gland. Then when you put the brain back together, you're looking at the wrinkles. So this sucked in area of the wrinkle, any of these indentions into the brain, those are going to be a sulcus. And then all the raised part of the wrinkle is going to be the gyri or gyrus. Okay. So again, any of these indentations are going to be a sulcus. And then any of these raised portions like here, 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 those are your gyri or gyrus. Okay. Then this is the spinal cord. So all of this right here is the spinal cord, and these are going to be some roots that come off forming the spinal nerve. So here we go. In the spinal cord, you have, and this is the picture form below it, you have all of this area right here. All of that is the white matter, and everything inside of this butterfly is the gray matter. Then in the middle of the gray matter, you have a hole. That hole is a central canal. So up here, all of this that is white is going to be the white matter. And then this greenish gray butterfly looking structure, that's going to be the gray matter. Then there is a hole right here in the middle of that gray matter. That is going to be the central canal. Then you have some skinny roots coming off the front, both here and here. Those are going to be your ventral roots. Then the ones in the back, which have these bulbous ends, these are going to be your dorsal roots. Then the swelling in your dorsal root is your dorsal root ganglion. Then when this dorsal root comes into this ventral root and they form this V right here where they come together, right here is going to be the spinal nerve. Okay. So again, this is white matter. This and this is gray matter. This hole, this hole right there is the central canal. This structure right here, ventral root. This structure back here, dorsal root. This swelling, dorsal root ganglion. And where these two roots come together right here is the spinal nerve. Okay. Then we have one more model for our spinal cord. So this right here, this circle right here is my spinal cord. And surrounding your spinal cord, you have all the bones of the spine called the vertebrae. So this, all of this is the vertebrae. Okay, all of this is the vertebrae. And then this in the center is the spinal cord. In this, you have all of this that is white, that is the white matter. Then you have the butterfly wings with the bridge in the middle. This is the gray matter. Then that hole in the middle of the gray matter is going to be the central canal. Then coming off of that spinal cord, you have number 17 right there. The skinny root that comes off in the front is going to be the ventral root. Then this one that is thicker in the back, number 18, is going to be the dorsal root. Then in that dorsal root, you have this swelling. That swelling is called the dorsal root ganglion. And then right here where those two roots come together is your spinal nerve. So again, this is white matter. This and this is gray matter. This whole central canal. Number 17 right here, this skinnier structure, ventral root. Number 18, this yellow tube right here, 18, dorsal root. And you know it's dorsal because it's thicker than the number 17. And then this swelling in it is called the dorsal root ganglion. And right here where these two come together is the spinal nerve. Now you have some meninges. Meninges are connective tissue wrappings that wrap around both the brain and the spinal cord. Those meninges are called dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater. So I'm going to pause this so I can find the picture for this, and then we'll go over it on this model as well. Okay, so this image here is showing our meninges. Again, the outer meninges is a dura mater. The middle meninges that looks like a spider web is arachnoid mater. Arachnoid refers to spider, so it looks like a spider web. And the soft inner layer is going to be the pia mater. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that and we're going to go back to the model. So on this model, this outer layer right here that goes this white outer layer right here, that is going to be the dura mater. Attached to that dura mater, this one right here on the other side of that line is going to be the arachnoid mater right here. And then lying right on the surface of this spinal cord right here is going to be the pia mater. So dura mater, arachnoid mater, pia mater. And you can see the pia mater, like if I'm laying it kind of on its side, this right here is the pia mater. So where I'm rubbing right here is the pia mater. Okay. So those are the meninges. Okay, going back to sharing a screen, I'm going to show you some pictures that you need to know. Let me go back some. Don't forget also that the nerves coming off in the neck are going to be the cervical nerves. The nerves coming off of the thoracic vertebrae area are going to be your thoracic nerves. Then the nerves coming off in the lumbar region here are going to be the lumbar nerves. And then the nerves coming out at the sacrum are going to be the sacral nerves. Okay. Let me make sure I've covered everything y'all have to know. Okay. So, got all that. Make sure you know the neuron in picture form as well. So make sure you know this picture as well as that model that I showed you. Make sure you know the lobes of the brain. So I forgot to cover that from y'all. So the big areas of the brain are going to be called lobes. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'll go back to the picture. I meant to the model. So this is my brain. So this area that sticks out, this is going to be the frontal lobe. The tops of the brain here and here are your parietal lobes. Here and here on either side above the ears is going to be your temporal lobe. And then the back of the brain here is going to be occipital lobe. So again, the big areas of the brains are going to be called lobes. Frontal lobe, the top is parietal lobe. The sides of the brain are your temporal lobes. There's one on either side just above your ear. And the base of the brain or the back of the brain is going to be the occipital lobe. Okay. Okay. Okay, so back to your study guide now. We've done all of that. We did that. Know this picture right here. We covered it in a lecture, so I'm not going to go over it real in depth, but any part of the body that is going to gather information about things that change on the outside of the body or things that change on the inside of the body are called sensory receptors. So a sensory receptor would be the eye, the ear, the taste buds, the olfactory epithelium in the roof of the nose. Okay, so those would be sensory receptors. They're going to gather information. Then as the information gets sent into the brain, it is called sensory input. In the brain and spinal cord is the area where we have integration. That is where we process that information that was brought in. And then the information that leaves the brain as a command is called motor output. And that motor output is going to go to an effector, which oftentimes is a skeletal muscle or a gland, and it's going to effect or cause a change to happen. Okay, so make sure you know this picture and make sure you know this picture. This is a simple reflex arc. So a reflex is an automatic response to some stimulus, and it's going to happen the same way every time. For instance, if you go into the doctor and he wants to test your reflexes, he can hit your knee here with a reflex hammer. When he hits the knee, that is going to send information along this sensory receptor through the sensory neuron into the brain or spinal cord, where that information gets integrated. Then a command is going to be sent out the motor or efferent neuron to the effector organ, and the effector organ is going to cause some change, which here the change is kicking the leg out. Another example of a reflex arc is when you touch a hot stove. So let's just say this is my hand, and instead of this hammer, we have a hot stove. So I touch the hot stove. That information about, oh, this is super hot, is going to go in through my sensory receptor. My sensory receptor is going to gather that information, and it's going to send that information through a sensory or afferent neuron. Afferent always means something goes into. So a sensory or afferent neuron is taking information into the brain or spinal cord. Then that information gets in here in the spinal cord for this example, where it gets integrated or processed. Then that spinal cord is going to send out a motor command or a motor output along a motor or efferent neuron. An efferent means something is exiting out of. So a motor or efferent neuron is taking information out of my brain or spinal cord. And then it is going to go to my effector organ, which in the case of the hot stove would be my hand, telling my hand to jerk away from that hot source. So make sure you know this picture as well. Okay, we covered all of the spinal cord, both know it from this picture and from the models that I showed you. And we're going to end this recording and we'll pick up on part 2.